Hello, how are you doing? Good evening and a very warm welcome to 8 till late live from youtube.com/Wi-Fi sheep with me, Tom. And in case you haven't noticed, we're in a slightly different location tonight. I'm visiting my family, so tonight's 8 till late is coming to you from Firsk, North Yorkshire. If this background looks remotely familiar, because I'm in the guest room, yes, I have actually done a couple of live, not streams, but videos. So why did I say live? Anyway, I've done videos here before, most notably, where are we? 2 years ago, a year ago or so, when I actually came up here and I actually got COVID while I was here, and I had to quarantine here for something like 3 weeks. So, and I think I did one, maybe two recorded videos on the channel from this location. Anyway, I said I would attempt to make it online. Now, I don't know how good the Wi-Fi or the broadband up here is. It's looking a little bit ropey. So if we cut out or it gets a bit spluttery, then that's why, because we're very much off-site tonight. Which also means that obviously we don't have everything that I normally have when I'm in the studio. So we're going to be a little bit limited in what we can do tonight. And as a result of that, I have a feeling that this live stream might be a little bit shorter than the normal ones. So if we make it to 9 o'clock, I think we're doing quite well. Anyway, you are, of course, most welcome to join me this evening. We're going to carry on with the Tiny Basic Computers build very shortly. And I've got a bit of channel news and updates to share. But before we do all that, do you have a need for reliable and cost-effective web hosting for your blog, business or personal website? If so, then look no further than Cheap Host UK. Cheap Host UK's basic plan starts from only 58p per month. That's £6.99 a year. And if you're needing a little bit more, Cheap Host UK's premium packages start from £1.41 per month or £16.99 a year, complete with a free .co.uk domain. New customers can also take advantage of an extra 10% discount when purchasing any first-time hosting package or domain name from Cheap Host UK. Use discount code SHEEP, that's SHEEP, to get an extra 10% off. For reliable, cost-effective web hosting and domains, look no further than Cheap Host UK. Full details and an affiliate link are in the description to this video. So yes, Cheap Host UK sponsoring 8 till late live here on youtube.com/Wi-Fi sheep. As the slightly younger version of me has just said, you can find out the full details are in the description to this live stream or video if you're watching us back, and you can get 10% discount on all new domain names and web hosting products with discount code SHEEP, that's SHEEP. I will just say, I nearly did it again, nearly said good morning then. Good evening to Martin, who joins us, who messaged me a little earlier on X, formerly Twitter, about a video that I had seen? No, I'd seen like the upload for it. I hadn't watched it, about BBC Micro. Yes, thanks for the heads up on that, Martin. And yes, I did. Well, I've seen the video being uploaded. I've not watched it because I've obviously been a bit busy. Have got my cup of tea though. So we're doing all right. I probably should also just point out, if I'm sounding a little bit groggy and more tired than normal, I did my back in. I put my back out basically on Tuesday. I came up here Wednesday. I put my back out Tuesday, and I'm on quite a lot of sort of domestic painkillers and things, which are making me a little bit ugh at the moment. So if that's why I'm looking a bit pasty, plus about the lighting here is not very good. I've just got to like a work light, which is a bit bright, and I shouldn't really be looking directly in it, but that's why the lighting's a bit strange in here this evening. Yeah, so my back is not in the best condition right now. I've got a cushion behind me. The problem is I can't take anything too strong because I need to be able to legally drive, because I've got to basically I've got to go home tomorrow. So the plan is we'll do the live stream here tonight, pack up everything tomorrow morning, and then I've got to drive about 4 hours drive south, back down from Yorkshire to Shropshire, back home. So yeah, so I can't take codeine or anything too strong, because you can't legally drive a car if you've taken too many painkillers. So it's all fun, but never mind. I'm here now, so we'll carry on. I guess the big one I should say is let's do that in a minute. I was going to talk about the Risk Rest show, which is next Saturday. We'll talk that in a minute. I think before we do anything else, as I always forget to do this, as the second thing I should be doing, is let's say a very warm welcome to and thank you to all our Patreon and YouTube channel members. There is Martin on the top of the list still at the moment. The list, by the way, it's not in preference of anybody. It's just who, basically, when they get a new backer, they go on the top of the list and it shunts everyone down one. So, for example, Robert Diggle there on the very end of the list has been a supporter for a good few years now over on Patreon. And I just want to say, a huge thank you to everybody who does continue to support me on Patreon or directly here on YouTube. You know the drill by now. If you want to support me and get access to some of the extra content we do here on Wi-Fi Sheep, such as first look videos and downloads, you can head over to patreon.com/Wi-Fi Sheep. Alternatively, if you want to stay here just on YouTube and want to support me with video making and get access to first look videos and exclusive content, then you can join our membership tiers. Tiers start at €0.99, that's 99 pence, all the way up to €2.99, and that is transferred into your local currencies wherever you happen to be in the world. If Google or YouTube can't do your local currency, then it's transferred into US dollars, but there is the pricing in British pound sterling, as we are a UK-based channel. Just have to click the join button, which should be somewhere below this channel, or it's on the main channel page if you go to youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep. And once again, just want to say a huge thank you to everybody that does continue to support me. Really is appreciated and so helpful, especially when trying to get projects and making videos and getting content. You know, there is an expense, so it really is appreciated. Right, now let's do the mug show. So the mug, that's Midlands User Group, RiskOS Xmas Christmas Market, is happening in Wychbold, which is sort of South Birmingham off the M5 motorway, so central West Midlands, and it's December the 9th, so it's next Saturday. And I'm going to be there all day. It's free, by the way, if you want to come down. It's between 11:30 and 4 in the afternoon. I'm going to be there in the second of the two halls at the Parish Community Hall in Wychbold. And full details of this is at mug.riskos.org. Now, as a result of being at that show next week, I am not going to be doing a live stream. And I'm not going to be doing any live streaming from this particular event. Basically, because I want to concentrate all day on being able to talk to you if you do want to come down. So we won't be here, or here as in on YouTube live next week. We'll have another week off. But I'm sure you can understand, as I'm going to be rather busy here at the Mug RiskOS Xmas Market. So if you are kind of semi-local to the sort of central West Midlands area, I wouldn't travel more than an hour and a half, in all honesty. It's going to be a very small event. So it's not anything like on the size of a Cambridge or a VCF or anything like that. It's a small show, mainly dedicated to all things Acorn, RiskOS, etc. But yeah, it's going to be a fun little show, and I don't think it's going to be hugely busy, being that sort of time of year and how cold it is at the moment, which I'll get to in a moment. If you do want to pop down, I'm probably going to have a lot of time to talk to you. If you want to have a natter on my stand, no problem at all. I'm going to have a few things set up, including the Project Rio system we've been working on here at the channel, as well as a few other sort of Acorn related relevant bits and a few other things that we've talked about. So yeah, it's going to be a good day, and I pretty much got to get that sorted because I haven't, week to go, and it's like, what have you got sorted, Tom? I have got nothing sorted. So, and I've got to go to work Monday. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I know what I'm going to do, so it's not like panic stations. If I literally just grab some stuff and put it together for my stand, and so be it. But it's more about me being there for you to have a chat with. So yeah, that's, and also I'm not selling anything, so it's not a hard sell or anything. If you want to, subscribe to the channel and become a member or a patron, then that's lovely and thank you. But I'm not pushing goods or services, so I'm literally there just to provide content and to promote the event. So it should be nice all around, and I don't have to do any hard selling, which is always nice, which means I should enjoy the day a little bit more. Now, as you probably gathered, we don't have all the cameras. I've only got this one camera view. There's no overhead camera tonight. And this is off my MacBook directly. What we do have is we do have the video feed to Project Rio. That is live, and that's what I'll show you in a moment. But before that, let's do some photos very quickly. So yeah, basically that's the view out of the window here, just beside me, of the spare room. And I've been up here now for, this is the third night, I think it is. Basically it has snowed every morning since I've been up here. It's not a huge amount of snow, as you can see, but it's enough to kind of freeze and cause issues. So yeah, basically we're having a real cold snap here in the UK at the moment, and especially if you're in sort of north of England, where I am right now, and happen to be on the east coast, which I also happen to be, we're kind of getting the brunt of all these snow showers coming down from Siberia. And it's getting down to about -5, -6 degrees at night, so it's frozen out there again tonight. More snow due tomorrow, and that's going to be very interesting, trying to get home over the Pennines. I've got to go to Sheffield, Leeds, then over the Pennines to Manchester to get on the west side of the country, to then head back down to Shropshire. So that's going to make tomorrow's commute very interesting. I'll just show you, this is another photo I took. So we're in a kind of rural farming location here at Thirsk, and that was a view I just took of one of the kind of concrete farm lanes. And even though the snow had sort of thawed out by this point, we just had this freezing fog, freezing mist that just clung to everything. So that was a sort of very atmospheric picture, and it just snapped to my phone as I was sort of walking around. So yeah, it's been rather interesting to say the least, but it's nice to be able to get up here and get to see some family before Christmas, which is kind of the whole point of my visit here, because I won't get a chance to see my siblings or parents or things before Christmas, because they don't, they live here, not down where I am. So that was the whole point of this trip. But I did say I've got to do a live stream tonight as well, so we'll kind of we'll improvise as we go along. Right, how much time is that killed? 13 minutes. Martin's saying I live in Wakefield. Yeah, okay, I do. Yeah, well, I don't know Wakefield that well, but I've been through there. But yesterday I was working in Carlisle. Yep, using the A66, if you know it. No, I don't know that road as such, but as I said, I'm in Thirsk, North Yorkshire right now. It's in between the Yorkshire Moors and the Yorkshire Dales. Thirsk is kind of like right in the middle. And yeah, so I'll be going back down the M1A, A1M, whatever it's. Yeah, A1M I think it is, which turns into the M1 motorway. But I'm going to go to Doncaster, Sheffield, Leeds, that kind of way, over the Pennines on the is it 62? Goes over. It's that motorway that splits the two carriageways literally split, because there's this farm built in the middle, right, and both lanes have to go around this farm and back and join up again. So that's basically my Pennine route. It's like the highest motorway in the UK or something. And then that drops you back down into Manchester, the other side. And then I'll basically be going to Ellesmere Port, then out into North Wales via Wrexham, A5 Wrexham. And that's then back into Shropshire from the north and round, basically. So, yeah, bit of a trek tomorrow. It's about 100 and... I'm going to say 170, it's about 200 miles or something like that. But yeah. Anyway, right. So I have been doing some work with Project Rio this evening. Actually, I've been here. The whole reason for taking it was not only just to show you, oops, don't wobble the table, show you on camera during this live stream what I've been doing, but also just to get some stuff done, because as a one-man project, which it is, it's taking its sweet time, as I'm sure many of you realise. And yeah, it's... I want to do more. Basically, I want to do much more than I actually get around to doing. So, but I want to just push on with some progress. By the way, if you are a Patreon or channel member, you will probably already know that the latest Project Rio self-build video, that's the series, part 3 of the series that you actually can build a system yourself, is, I say it's up, it is live for you. I am still waiting for the okay to publish, because I don't get to say if it's okay to publish or not. So as soon as I know, it will go live to everybody else. Excuse me. Oh dear. Sorry, you can tell I'm on the meds. So the brain's a bit more woolly than normal. But as I said, I can't be doing this tomorrow because I need to drive. So yeah. Anyway, so that will be shortly going up, and that, in the latest video we'll be adding sound and SD card, filer SD card support. So effectively, by the time we're finished with that build, you will have something that's the equivalent of what we're doing here with the prototype project. Now, the prototype project itself, we are at that point now where I'm feeling another build is needed, a second completely different, well, not completely different, but a separate build on an actual solder breadboard. So instead of having components as we have in this one, which I can't show you tonight because it's just here, but I don't want to lift it up because it's cabled in. But basically, so something that looks more like a prototype PCB rather than separate modules cobbled together with glue and tape and what else we did. Basically, this first build was about trying to sort of sort out the parts and the infrastructure and the architecture and everything like that. And now once I've got that sorted and I'm happy with kind of what we're doing, I want to build something that's more like in line with what a production version would actually look like. And also see if we can sort out those pesky issues we've had with the power issues, especially when using original Raspberry Pi 1s. So the idea for me, I think, is to switch to Pi 0 as the terminal, because that's worked very well actually. And I was looking at what chip architecture we might use, as I really wanted to go to the 40-pin DIP package at Mega. Get the number 1284, I think it is 1284p or something like that, which gives you a very generous 16k of RAM and 4k EEPROM. But I bought a couple of those chips before we had the lockdowns and the pandemic, and ever since the chip shortage they have shot up in price, and it's still not a common component, so it's not being manufactured in huge numbers, and the prices of them are still stubbornly high. We're talking, you know, the best part of £20-25 per just for the chip. These aren't boards, these are just standalone DIP package chips. So basically I don't think it's worth it. So I think we're going to have to stick with the Mega 2560 chip that we have been using. You can get it on a smaller board, which is a damn sight cheap. It's about £6 or something, which basically is what I think we'll be using. So basically we're going to drop to 8k of RAM. I still think that'll be fine. We haven't been chasing memory issues with this system. I've been chasing plenty of other bugs, and what I'm about to show you, you'll understand. So instead of looking at my gormless face, let's cut to, where are we? Let's cut to the video feed. There we go. Okay. Hopefully this is still working. So we just check with memory. Now you'll notice that there's not a lot of user bytes, so there's should be 4K, and a third chunk of that has actually already been used up. Yeah, so you see it's there under bytes for user. So so it shows you basically with EEPROM bytes how much you would have for the EEPROM. So on this system it's just over 4K or 4,000 bytes of RAM, and we've got available 1,596, so that's 1.5 K basically of RAM available. So where is the other 3.5 gone? Or should I say 2.5? Sorry, let's get my maths right. 2.5. Well, that is now sitting as the Project Rio OS graphic user interface, which is kind of what I want to show you this evening. Mark's just tapped in on the chat. Have you seen that Pyronio have made a Pico board that has HDMI output? Do you think that could work as a Tiny Basic on its own? Yes, probably. More than enough RAM. What I would say, and why we didn't go down the Pico Raspberry Pi road, was that my interpreter, which is based on the open source version of Tiny Basic in C that's been floating around, it compiles for Pico. So Pico is it's an ARM chip. It's an ARM Cortex M0. It will compile for an M0, but when you try and run the interpreter, it will come up and it looks like it's working, and you can type in some single instructions. But the minute you try and write a program by adding numbers and trying to list stuff, it crashes, it locks up. And the reason is that the way the numbering indexing is done in the C, basically it's written for an 8-bit system. And it's using a 16-bit, it's like a 16-bit decimal addressing or something, I believe. Was it hex addressing? This was all explained to me. And basically the 32-bit ARM Cortex M0 chips can't handle it, so they crash. Interestingly, the ESP32, there is an ESP32 version knocking around for, it's a version of Tiny Basic for color, but it's knocking around in the folders if you are backing us on Project Rio. So it's a slightly older board, but the ESP32, despite being a 32-bit system, does actually support the 16-bit addressing, so it actually runs. As for if the Pico can be used as a terminal, just the terminal, yeah, that should work fine. It just depends what its graphics support is. What I will say is with Project Rio, although it's set up to talk to PyGFX in the kernel, you don't have to use PyGFX. You can use something else that supports escape codes via UART serial. So, and there's a way of actually sending escape codes directly, basically directly to whatever you've got connected on the other end. So, as long as you understand the idea that most of the software doesn't work visually, but you don't have to use a Raspberry Pi if you wanted to use something else. So that's fine. Anyway, so yeah, this is kind of where we're at. So let me chain into, let's eload first. So eload. So this is just what's in the EEPROM at the moment, and I'm going to list. Yeah, so there's quite a bit of code in there at the moment. Now, I'm going to give you a fair warning. What I'm about to demonstrate is, at best, rather flickery. So if you suffer from photoepilepsy or kind of prone to, fits or problems as a result of high-frequency flashing images, then you may want to look away now, or just listen in for the rest of this, because this is uncomfortably flickery, is what I'm going to say, which is unfortunate. But understand what I'm showing you is a very early alpha concept build of what I'm calling Rio OS, and it's the graphical user shell for the system. Okay, so it's all written in BASIC. You've seen the basic code there. So I'm going to run. And I have been looking at how a graphical user menuing and windowing system might look, feel and work on a Project Rio system. So you remember from last week where we were doing joystick support. And by the way, if I forgot to mention already, the next issue, or edition rather, of Project Rio, the build series, which will be episode 4, we are actually going to look at how to add Atari joystick support to your home table builds. So once we get past that episode, which will be in the new year after Christmas now, you should be able to if you are a Patreon on the Project Rio tier, you should be able to actually run what I'm showing you. If I'm going to release this just yet, I don't know. When it is released, it will be to Patreon backers in that tier. It's, well, you'll see what I mean in a minute. It's a bit wonky, to say the least. But anyway, right. So this is the idea for a sort of desktop. And you see we've got a version build. You'll notice there's two 100 numbers down the bottom. That is just logging where the cursor is. The cursor is the green arrow on screen. And we have a system menu floating window. I say floating, you can't click or drag or move the window. It's static there, so it looks like it's floating, but it's not. I haven't quite got around to figuring if we can even do movable, scrollable, draggable windows as yet. I suppose technically it's possible, but it's just, is it worth it with the minimal resources we've got? Now, I'm going to use the joystick, the Atari joystick, to move the cursor. Again, warning, this is extremely flickery, okay? It's not yet. It basically, what's happening at the moment is it has to redraw every frame that we move. And as you can see, it's not great. And I accept it's not great. But it's just a working prototype, because I basically need something to take out to show for people to have a play with. So this is kind of where we've got to. So this is the system menu, and you can see there's color test, joystick, key code, system info, and demo reel. The first one I'll just show at the top here is the color test. Now, you've seen the color test before, so basically these are now clickable buttons. This is a new concept for Project Rio. So here is the button. I bring the cursor or the arrow over to the button. I know this is all really simple stuff that we've had for decades, in graphical user computing, but you've got to remember we're kind of rebuilding this from scratch effectively. So how does a cursor work? How does a cursor interact with a button? When you click, how does it know where you've clicked? All that kind of stuff has had to be worked out again by me, mostly in the last 2 days. So this build is only 48 hours old, something like that. So yeah, anyway, so we'll click, and we just use the fire. When I say click, we're using the fire button on the Atari. So we'll go color test, and there is the color palette. That's the full 256 colors that the system can generate at the moment. Now if I just click again, or fire button, it pings straight back to the menu. Now another thing I want to show you is system info. Oh, try it again. There we go. It's a little glitchy. So system info brings up another window that tiles on top of the window already on the desktop. And you can see it brings up some basic information, such as the Rio OS Project Rio build. So it's the December 2023 build, as in it was literally finished earlier today. The kernel version. Now, interestingly, the kernel version, that's the version of the C code for Project Rio that we're using, is embedded as an instruction in the actual instruction list or command list for BASIC. So using one of our hashtag statements, you can actually call up the kernel number. The reason for that is that I'm planning at some point, as things progress, people might write some software and you can actually check what version of the kernel that you're running, and you can say if it's lower than this or higher than that, then don't run the program, or print that you can't run the program. So that's why that's there. So it's just calling up that. So it's v5.7.1, which it has been for a little while, the mega build. And it's by me, and a copyright, and a web address. So that's that. You can also see that the window is a darker colour. So I'm also looking at how colours might work and how we might navigate this system. So again, we can move the pointer around, although it's even more flickery than it was before, which is really unfortunate. I get that. But what we can do is move over to the OK button. I press OK, removes the window. We're back to the window behind, and these buttons here are active again. If I click, I hit fire, I can bring the window back up. So it's the beginnings of how a graphical windowing system might actually work in theory. It needs a lot of work, and I want to do a lot more things with it, but I thought this is something that, instead of just being basic, a lot of this could actually be put straight into the kernel, so rewritten in C once I figured out how it works or what I want to do. So instead of typing 20, 30 basic lines, you could have one call up that might call and be able to draw a window on the screen for you from just one call of instruction from basic. So you could create windowing applications really, really easy without having to specify everything. Because at the moment, I'm specifying everything from background colors to the two-tone shadows on the windows to the circles there on the desktop. So yeah, it's got a way to go, and I'm still working out how it's going to work. I like the idea of having the window strap lines on the bottom, and that's something I've experimented with in previous projects, going all the way back to even college and university. I always had the idea of, I used to build little windowing GUIs and things in web browsing, like sort of JavaScript and CSS. And one of the things I used to like doing was actually having the titles for the windows at the bottom and having the X's in the corner on the bottom as opposed to on the top. And that was something uniquely different that I kind of did with my system. Not saying there weren't bottom labels on other OSs, but most of the main stock GUIs that we use all tend, that are windowing based, all tend to have that on the top. So that's something I'm sort of looking at with Rio. Now, the flicker, how to, eliminate or sort that out. At the moment, the reason it flickers is, and again, warning, this is going to flicker, but when you move, it basically has to redraw the whole screen, and that includes, it needs to do a couple of if statements to ask which window is on top of which. By the way, at the moment it's not possible to, for example, to click and bring that window to the front. It might be possible at some point, but it doesn't do it at the moment. But basically it's extremely slow to redraw. Now, what I'm hoping to do is get the bitmap graphics mode working. PyGFX is meant to be able to support, through escape codes, the sending of binary or bitmap data. So you should be able to send strings of data that actually make up images. I haven't got that to work. The Project Rio kernel does have that ability in it. I just haven't got that to work as yet. So the thinking is, instead of having to draw using the triangle line tools, a cursor, is to actually have a graphic cursor. Now, if you have a graphic cursor, instead of having to redraw the whole screen every move we make, it should be possible to what's called XOR or AND, or forget whatever it's called, but basically you can paint pixels on the screen and invert the colors of them. When you place the same pixeled object back over itself and invert the colors back to the original, that way you can kind of almost rub out and paint over where you've been with a tracking object without destroying the contents behind it. It's a trick that I know the BBC Micro, for example, does very well. Now, the terminal software we're using, the PyGFX on the Raspberry Pi side, should be able to do this. I've not got that to work. If I can get that to work, it means that instead of having to redraw every frame, we literally can save so much memory cycles and machine cycles by painting all the windows and graphics once, and then instead of refreshing the screen every time, we can literally just rub out the cursor, move it, rub it out, and it won't destroy what was behind previous. So that should allow us to have a much more free-flowing system with a solid cursor instead of a sort of wireframed one that doesn't actually need to do this awful jarring redrawing every time you move. So that's the plan, and that's probably what I really need to get working next. It also means that we'll be able to, through third-party apps and software, including web-hosted software, we should be able to redraw or convert images, photographs, graphics off other systems for inclusion in your programs. You should be able to embed those as strings of ASCII binary or hex binary or whatever you want to format you want to use that works with this. So it should be able to have graphics and visuals on screen more than just the blocks of color and the shapes that you can command from basic as is. So that's kind of my fundamental thinking of how I want this to work, and I think it needs to work. It also means that if I can get that cursor system running so it doesn't keep doing this every time you move, it should theoretically be possible to do pixel painting. Right, I don't think you'll be able to save anything, but we should be able to have on-screen painting and, you know, graphics type manipulation should be doable in theory. There's quite a lot that PyGFX can actually do as a standalone terminal. So as we just interpret its signals it sends back, and also decode and send stuff to it properly, as we have been doing. But if we can get the image stuff to work, then there's potential here to do something quite powerful. What I will say is, in the development of this today, I found the limitations in the Tiny Basic kernel. It was never designed to do anything as complicated as this, and even if you throw more RAM at it, I mean, I knew there were limitations because it's a very early basic implementation in about 500 bytes of RAM, but it's just, it doesn't like multiple go sub statements, so we don't have procedures like you would in BBC Basic. So you have to use, I was using go subs. The problem with that was that after about 4 go subs, it just decided that it couldn't cope anymore, and so it wasn't returning, and it was just reading on to the next one. So I was getting multiple draws which hadn't been called for, and it was extremely confusing. So as the go subs are mostly only declared or called once, it was possible to replace go sub with go to, and then you could jump to a piece of code basically acting like a procedure. And then at the end of that, instead of the return statement, you could just tell it to go to, and it would jump back roughly to where you were previous. Limiting in some ways, yes, but it did allow this windowing system to work. It is a bit crude, I'll accept that, but we have to understand that the Tiny Basic kernel being used here is quite crude. It's powerful in as much as you can obviously write programs, and this is all running with the Tiny Basic kernel. But it does have its limitations, which, you know, is a little bit of an issue. Anyway, let's carry on. So that's the bit I'm most proud about, and you click, and that's clicked off, which is great. Color test we've done. Key code, let's see if this works. So if I now click key code, basically if I add or type on the keyboard, it returns the ASCII value of that key. Now, obviously, that at the moment is not stylized to work in the environment. It's kind of, what it's doing is it's just chaining straight out to another program. What I have got it doing is listening for the fire button. So if I hit fire on a joystick, it just returns straight to the main menu just by chaining between programs. And most of the others do that as well. So if we go down to, and again, apologies for the flickering, we go to demo reel, and you've seen the line drawing demo before. Basically, I need stuff to people to click on and use the computer when it goes out to show at the Mug RISC-OS Christmas market event, which is next week. So you've got that running. Again, you can just hit fire on the joystick and we return to the menu. And again, all we're doing is we're just chaining in and out. Joystick itself is the only one that actually doesn't return, but you can see how we're now running in a different program, and it just identifies which joystick movement or command you've just inputted. That's a program again that I'll need to rewrite and stylize so it sits inside the kind of graphical user interface within a window. Would be rather nice, rather than kind of taking over the whole screen and scrolling. The only way to get out of that one is to break, and then we're outside of the Rio OS environment because we're running that piece of code. Now if I go eChain, go straight back to the menuing system, which is, as I said at the start, was actually now installed on the EEPROM. So you don't, well, you do need the SD card, because if you click on any of these, it jumps to SD card programs. So color test, for example, if I hit escape there, if it will let me, deciding it's not going to let me now. Oh well, that didn't work. But yeah, if I had been able to break out of that, then you'd have seen that the code for that is a completely separate program. So it doesn't store anything that's not in use, because we don't have the RAM to be storing stuff that isn't in use. So basically we're chaining and sliding in and out of program code. Variables, by the way, can be carried across. So if you set a variable, that variable will stay even if you chain across programs, which is useful. So I guess an example of that might be, if you imagine having a game and you could use the whole 6K for basic, could be the splash screen, and then we press fire to start. You press fire, it dumps the entire code, chains to another completely separate basic program on the SD card, which is the menu, and we select what we want, and then we get to level 1 and it sets up variables like s equals score and al equals lives or something. And each level could use the full memory, because each level could be a separate basic program, and it would just carry over the S and L variables between the levels, which would be separate basic programs. And that's how realistically I think you do it, because we have such fast flash storage now, either via EEPROM or via SD card, that you can now literally just chain stuff in and out as required. Which is again why I'm not too worried, as it stands, about having only an 8K system with 6K for basic. Basically, I think, yes, it'd be nice to go up to a 16K system, but we can work around that without it being detrimental. I mean, you see what I've managed here, and this is 2.5, I think it is, something like 2.5K. For this interface, which is fine, and because we can chain out to other programs, you can create quite a fluid operating space just with the use of a joystick. So this is something I've wanted to have done or been doing for some time, and it's just nice to kind of be able to spend a couple of days sitting with it, really, just to sort of get it up to speed. So yeah, so if anyone has any questions or anything, then obviously please do feel free to tap in on the chat. A little bit quiet this evening, I appreciate it's a cold night. It's a cold night. Yeah, so but happy to kind of answer anything. If anyone does have any questions, then obviously please do chime in, as Martin has done. I should also just say, while I remember, coming up on the channel, so we've got Christmas coming up very shortly, as I'm sure many of you are aware. Now we're in December, so we will be doing a live Christmas Eve live stream here on the channel, and we'll also be live for New Year's Eve, counting in New Year's Eve. I'll be putting details of that, so you'll see the announcements go up here on YouTube, and you'll also see it over on X and Threads, if I remember to do it, and Facebook and Instagram, and of course all the other at Wi-Fi Sheet places you can follow me. In fact, most of them are hang on, there we go. There we go. Do you know how difficult that is to point at? There we go. There. So yeah, that's what we've got coming up. As I said, just a reminder, I'm not here next week because I'm exhibiting. Hang on. Here. There we are. Might well get a fill of that poster. So I'm there if you want to come and join me. If you're more than an hour and a half away, it's probably not worth your time, honestly. But if you're kind of in the Midlands area and would like a free day out with some retro computing and want to have a chat with a nobody YouTuber, aka me, then I'm all ears to have a chat. But it'd be nice to see you, honestly, if you can make it down. So that's the Mug Risk Christmas show, which is next Saturday. That's the 9th of December 2023. And hence we will not be here live on 8 till 8 that evening because I will either be not here in time or very tired or both, which I'm sure you can understand. So what we've got coming up with pre-made video content, well, I said pre-made, I mean recorded content for December. Well, I have another product review to do. I know some of you are going to start groaning because this channel turns to QVC occasionally. But no, we do actually have another product from our friends at Banana Pie. Have sent me another Raspberry Pi clone board to have a look at. And this one is kind of interesting. Well, they're all interesting to be fair, but this one, it's not the most powerful board you can buy, but it fits a very interesting market in a kind of a slice, if you like, a slice of pie that no one else has really covered. So I am genuinely looking forward to reviewing that. It has now arrived on my desk back home, so we will be looking at another Banana Pie product. We're also going to be looking, hopefully, we should be doing something with the NES. And we also want, well, I also want to do something with the PlayStation 2. So I've got a couple of projects that was meant to be done last Christmas. And as I said to you before, we all got tied up with the Advent calendars, doing a video every night, or every day rather, for Advent. As you probably could tell, I'm not doing that this year. A, I'm too busy, and B, it nearly killed me to do a video every day up until Christmas. It was like, nope, we're not doing that. So, which reminds me, actually, I do need to get the Christmas. I need to sort out some Christmas content. So all the Christmas content from previous years here on Wi-Fi Ship is on the Christmas playlist. And you've just reminded me while I'm talking about it. I don't even know if has that gone live. Is that on the homepage? He says he doesn't know. Hang on. Talk amongst yourselves a moment. Let's just view your channel. Hate it when you get moving to view your channel buttons. Oh no, I did do it. So yeah, on the main Wi-Fi Sheep channel page, you've got Christmas on Wi-Fi Sheep as the first playlist, and most of those are the Advent videos. I believe at this moment, as I speak, live, not pre-record obviously, but as I speak live, the farming video from last year is still there on the main channel, but it basically will be taken off here off the main Wi-Fi Sheep and will be going on to Wi-Fi Sheep 2 as Christmas content over there. So if you want to watch that video again and help support me, you can head over to 2.wifisheep.co.uk and that'll take you over to our sister channel Wi-Fi Sheep 2, which desperately does need some love. There you are. I'll get the words out eventually. Basically, I've been meaning to get some extra content for Channel 2 and I just haven't had time. It's been an absolute nightmare trying to do everything as yet. I still intend to do some model train type projects over on Channel 2, and I know I keep saying I'm going to do it, and I'm hoping might be able to just get one done for Christmas would be great. So that's kind of the rough plan for December this year. So hopefully there's going to be lots of interesting projects for you. And then when we come back into January, basically we'll be going to be concluding, or well, carrying on for the moment with Project Rio, the build series. I want to get this prototype, well, another one of these prototypes built, because I've got a couple more ideas. And I've also got some other things to do, which actually reminds me, you might remember last week I showed you a Kim 1 clone board that was sent to me, and I couldn't remember who sent it to me. Well, Gertmon, you might remember Gertmon, a regular. He hasn't come in the chat tonight, so he's probably a bit busy. But one of the regulars, and Davey Roscoe, on the members. Let's find him. Hang on, we can do this. We've got the technology. David Roscoe. There we are. Second one from underneath Martin. There was actually the one who sent me those boards, and that was via Instagram. And I completely forgot who it was that sent me. And of course, it was Gertmon or David. So I want to say a huge thank you if you are watching this, because I know sometimes he watches this back pre-record. I know many of you do actually. So if you are watching this back as a pre-record, then thank you very much and well done, and thank you for listening to me blab on for the last hour. Yeah. So yeah, that's a project I'm actually really looking forward to do, because it kind of ties in very nicely with what we're doing here with Project Rio. But also it's got some architecture and software for it, and it's just gonna be really cool to kind of play with the Kim 1 clone. And I would like to use, you remember that board I showed you last week that I got from work that they'd chucked, and you remember my colleague came on the live, well, in the chat on the live stream as senior technician, and that spooked me a little bit, and I lost my train of thought for quite some time. But no, I actually went sort of 2 days later, because that was a Saturday, and Monday I went in and I went to go and see him. I said, you ruined my live stream, totally threw me. No, it's all good. And yeah, just sort of saying that unfortunately don't know if those boards work or not, and it's not worth, there's not enough time for the price of those boards. It costs more in hours to pay people to sit there and sort everything out than it is just to assume it's bad and go and buy replacement stock, which I guess if you're on that kind of university academic commercial level, then yeah, it makes sense. It just, I think personally for me, where I've been penny pinching on everything for years, you're like, oh God. But obviously, if I can make use of stuff like that, then everyone seemed very happy with that. So we did a brief test of that board, if you remember. So it powered up, but I haven't tested to see if all the I/O actually works. So that will be something that we'll need to look at at a later date. But what I'm hoping to do with that mega board is, if it is okay, or it does what I need it to do, see if the 6502 kernel that the Kim 1 Uno uses would actually upload to a mega. Because if it would run on a mega, and it should do because it's the same AVR architecture, if it would run, it means we can actually have more RAM, as we do with Project Rio. It's the same board, or the same chip rather, the Atmega 2560. So if the Uno can be expanded, we can run the Wasmon and some of the Apple One stuff that's also compatible and comes included in the free downloads for the Uno Kim Uno 1 project. So I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how far we can get with that, and what actually works and what doesn't. So it's meant to run on a Atmega 328P, which is where we started with Project Rio, but that's only 2K of RAM, so you're going to fill that pretty quick. I think the original Kim 1s actually had 4K of RAM as stock standard. So if we could jump up to 8K, we should be able to have all the luxuries of all the extra programs and bits of software and stuff already like preloaded onto the ROM, with a view that if we actually have enough RAM to run things like AppleSoft Basic for Apple One, which would be really, really cool if we can get that running. So that's definitely a project that I want to get on with, basically, in the new year, because it's been sitting there for some time. Amongst other projects like the ZX81, I have a Sinclair ZX81 which was donated by channel fan Simon Pryatt, who used to be a former member of the Stafford Computer Club, Raspberry Jam Computer Club, before it closed. And he gave me a ZX81. It needs some work. We showed it once on the channel, and I have bought all the extra bits for it, and we just haven't got around to doing anything with it. So that's another project that desperately needs my time and attention. It'd be so cool to get a ZX81 up and running, especially after over a year of waiting to try and get around to doing that project. So that's just two sort of build projects, as well as Project Rio and Tiny Basic Computers. So plenty to be getting on with in the new year here on the channel. Right. Well, as I said, unless anybody has anything else particular they want to discuss or ask me or talk about, I'm probably going to call it there for tonight because, as you can probably tell, I'm talking quite a lot basically. Because as I said, unfortunately, I've done my back in, so I'm on some painkillers tonight, and I'm a little bit out of sorts, is to say the least. So trying to string a sentence together and know what I'm talking about is, yeah. I'm not high or anything, I can assure you, but I'm just, if you've got back pain, you've taken medication, it makes you a bit woozy. So, but it should be all good, and obviously I'll make sure I'm legally fine and okay to drive tomorrow. And if I'm not or not able to, then I'll just have to stay another night and go back Monday, which I could do if I need to. So yeah, I think just to remind you again, I am at the Mug Risquesh Midland User Group Risquesh Christmas Market Show, and that is now happening next week, and I need to do a mad dash to get everything ready. So there will be no live 8 till 8 next week. We should be back the weekend after, and I've got a couple of other things coming up as well that I'll tell you about at that time. And then I'll also let you know about when we're going to be live for Christmas and New Year. And I do really hope that you can actually join me on Christmas Eve. And possibly, I know a lot of you go out and do parties and things New Year's Eve, so not everyone is sitting at home drinking a hot cup of tea on their own. But I do, and we do here on the channel. I think it's more useful for those of you that aren't in the GMT time zone. So if you're kind of North America, you haven't had New Year's. If you're in New Zealand or anywhere like that, you've already had it. It's been gone and it's the morning. So, but obviously we will be live for both those events this year. So it'd be great to have your company. So yeah, we'll call it a night there, I think, coming up to 9 o'clock. So if you haven't done so already, then please do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. And I will see you either in person or here on YouTube real soon. Until then, thank you so much for your company tonight, and I'll see you real soon. Good night.